All right, welcome to Greg's Real Revival. Today we will be servicing an old classic. This is an Ambassadeur 5500C. This is one of their reels, if you can see that, that's made in Sweden, so this is one of their older ones. And what's unique about this is this has what's called their Syncro Drag System. What that allows you to do is if you're fighting a fish and you feel like you're getting too much tension on that fish, instead of having to loosen the star drag itself, you can backspin this handle about a half a turn and that takes drag off the fish so you don't break your line. So we're going to take this apart and get it serviced. As you can see, it's pretty dirty, but it's kind of hard to push in there. But I think it's probably just because it hasn't been serviced. So let's get into it. Alright. First thing we're going to do, this cap just pops off here. There's one little space on here where you can get a screwdriver and just pop that off. Alright, we'll lay things in the order that we take them off here. Alright, you'll notice this right here. This, I'm sure there's a special tool somewhere for it, but what we have to do is just kind of take a screwdriver, just kind of spin it backwards, and it'll come off. So that was... I searched online to see if I could find the tool for it, but I could not find anything. Now, before I took this apart, I did get on real schematics and look under Abu Garcia. I could not find the 5500C with this drag system, just looking through under the Abu Garcia schematics, but there is a search function, and I typed 5500C Syncro, and it came right up for me. So, all right, there's that. You can see it's got a little O-ring around it, so that's the next thing that comes off there. There's a little C-clip or E-clip right there we're going to take off. There's that. Alright, and we should be able to take this star drag adjuster off. Alright, next thing we have in here, let's see. 1, 2. We have 1, 2, 3. All right. We have 3. Looks like all 3 of them are keyed washers. They have like the little square hole in them. Okay. So you got 3 of those that go right in there. Next thing we have to do is take this little Syncro drag plate off. I'm not sure how common these reels are, but I hadn't seen one before until I got this one. So that just comes off right there, lays down right there. Now the handle comes off next. Really nothing special about the handle. Okay. So we're good to go here. So let's go ahead and just take this side plate off real quick. These are just thumb screws. If they're too tight, you can use a flathead screwdriver and loosen them up. Alright. Alright. So there's that. You can see a lot of old grease in there. So we'll take all of this apart here in just a second. So let's just lay that there. Take the spool out. See, there's a lot of old dried grease in there, so we'll get all that out. Now let's take this side off here. There's really not a whole lot under this side, but there is access to the line guide system, and so we need to have access to that. These Abus are kind of obviously a little bit older. Their side screws all take just a flathead screwdriver, when most of the modern reels are kind of going to more of a I can't think of the name of them and I said it, more of like a hexagonal screw, which I actually didn't like at first, but I really like it now. It's really stable. All right, screws are out of there. So that's all that's in there. All right, so you can also see a lot of dry grease in there. This will come off. Let's go ahead and take that off. Maybe I'll get that easier with this pick here. There we go. Came off right there. That's just one single piece, and there's nothing underneath there. So we'll just get all that cleaned off as well. And then next thing we have is our line guide system. You can see what holds that in here is just this little piece. That comes off. Then we're going to have to take this pawl off. This is a pawl cover right here. Again, just a lot of dirt and grease on the sides of it. Kind of tap that on the table here. And then we should be able to get that. Pawl to come right out of there. Again, greasy and nasty. Okay, now that we have that out, we can slide this worm gear out. Look at that, it's just black. It's so just gross. Okay. Next thing that comes out, this whole thing will just slide out here. This and then you have this. You can just see all this dirt right here is just from the inside of here. Okay, so see here, a lot of dirt, a lot of dirt, a lot of dirt everywhere. So what we're gonna do is set that aside. Now let's open up what I call the business side of the reel. Okay, which I have to take these two screws off to do that. One there. One here. Put that there. And this should come right off. Kind of push down on this, and that should help us get everything off there. hard to get off here. It's kind of giving me fits. Tell you what, let's open this spool tensioner that has got a shim inside the cap there. Then it has this little piece here. There we go, that's what was holding it on right there. We just had to have that, taken off. It looks like there is not a bearing in there. I'm kind of surprised about that, but that's okay. All right, so we got the spool cap, we got that, and then we have the case. You can see also just a lot of dirt, grease and gunk in there. All right, now we have the inside. Again, pretty simple. We're going to just take this. See that just fell out there. We're just going to take this main gear off. Everything kind of comes off here, just one piece. Okay. So we'll look at our drag stack. This is, let's see if we can just get this piece off here. All right, so there is that piece there. That's a brass washer that's going to go right there. While I'm thinking about it, I'm going to also take off this worm gear here. Sorry, not worm gear. This is the anti-reverse. A bunch of just junk on here that will get cleaned off. And here's the pinion gear. The easiest way to get that off is just get something under here, kind of turn it sideways. That'll come right off also. Okay. That'll spin right away there for cleaning. We can get underneath there, and then we can get all that cleaned up as well. Okay. So let's see if we can work on this a little bit here. First thing we'll try to do is slide this whole gear and everything up. All right. So what we have. This is your clicker mechanism that will re-engage the reel after you cast. So that's going to go on. And let's just take this whole gear off. This piece does not come off. Underneath there you have your drag washer. So that goes on the bottom. You'll see there's a little raised area right here, so we know that points down. Let's see if we can maybe get there. Here we go. So this is just the pressure plate that kind of pushes down and gives you drag. Filthy also. And then we have our other larger drag washer on this side. So we'll just slowly work our way around here. And we'll get that off. So there you have it. So we'll clean all this up. All that old grease there, a bunch of old grease there. And I think once we get this done, that this reel is going to function like new. So I don't think we'll have any problem with it at all. But let me get this all cleaned up, and then we'll come back and we'll put it back together. All right, welcome back. We've got everything cleaned up really nicely here. Everything looks really, really good. Look how shiny that is. That looks really, really nice. There's so much dirt on there. You can see I have gone ahead and reinstalled the line guide system. That takes quite a bit of, or can take quite a bit of time. If you're concerned about how to do this, look on my channel, and there is a video on how to service your line guide system. So you'll have that reference. If you recall, this was just caked with nasty grease. All that's off there. It came out really, really nice. So I did discover on the spool, I didn't see those bearings, and I wasn't sure, why it didn't have bearings. But I did find those. Here we go. So let's start with the spool real quick. This is these are your kind of your anti-backlash. They used to be little pieces that the wires were longer and they were just little plastic pieces that sat on there. These are all built into one mechanism. So here's how this goes. On this side of the spool, there's 2 slots, so that's the side you want this to work on. Okay. First thing that went in was this brass washer here. Set that right there. Here's this bearing. I got that bearing out and I soaked it in Coleman fuel, or you could use acetone, you can use whatever you want. But as old as this was and as filthy as this was, I thought that was probably my better choice. Kind of aggressive, I understand that, but this reel needed it. Okay, then here's your device here. Obviously these 2 little silver slots go right in those tabs there. If I can get it done. There we go. All right, now what holds this on is there is this circlip here. If you will just, it goes around that little black ring there. So if you'll just hold it on this part here, and then just kind of move it wider until it clips on there. You should be good to go. I think I've got it. All right, there we go. So that's that side. Okay, and then on this side, there was the bearing. There was not any kind of a shim under it or any kind of a brass washer. Same thing with this bearing. It's been cleaned in Coleman fuel, and then I used a little bit of, this is Shimano Bantam oil. It's a very, very, very light oil. And then let's see here. This, the smaller end, I'm gonna hold this, oh, the bearing fell out of here. So this, the long end goes through here, out the other side of the spool. I'm going to actually put a tiny bit of oil on that. Again, just the really, really light oil, because I don't want anything slowing it down. All right, so there it is, going through to this other side right here. So we should be good. We do have this piece here, fits in here. Just go right over there and just clips on. So there's your spool mechanism. We're going to set that to the side. Next thing was the other side plate. Only thing on this, I just took this off with that E-clip. Got a little bit of just dish soap on a toothbrush and just cleaned it up a little bit and then put it back on. So not a big deal there. That little rubber cap comes off. There are, at least for mine, there were 2 little brass shims under there. So that's what those are, okay? So I got those little small things done. Now let's start putting together the important part. All right, here's our base plate. If you'll remember, first thing was that little brass shim that goes down on this. Okay, same thing as always. I'm just going to put a few drops of oil on here, because that's going to, the inside of that shaft's going to run on it. Okay, first thing we need to do, let's put in our pinion gear. Okay, for our pinion gear, there's that little plastic piece, and if you can see, it's got a little kind of indentation there and there. So first thing we're going to do, let's grease this thing up a little bit. When you're greasing up your reels, just remember that it doesn't take a whole lot, okay? If you get a whole lot, all you're going to end up with is a whole bunch of extra loose grease in your reel. Okay, so we need to get this fits right inside there. So how do we do that? we get a screwdriver, set that under there, kind of pry it up a little bit, okay? Give it plenty of room. Those two little teeth there fit into those little grooves. See if I can hold that up with my hand. Maybe that'll make it a little bit easier. All right. Those two, I don't know if you can see that there. Those little fingers there. Go right into those couple of grooves. There we go, right there. And then we'll move this right over here in the pinion gear slot, and that'll hold it there. This little spring goes right here. So, all right, we've got that for right now. Looks like it's in there the correct way. And we'll get the main gear put on here in a second, and that's gonna mesh with that also. Okay, main gear is right here. If you remember, first thing we're going to do, this is your shaft. Okay, that's why we put oil on there, is that shaft's going to ride on it. Okay. Your anti-reverse here. That rides on these little teeth. All right. Just like that. Okay. So I'm going to put this down on here as just kind of one whole piece. Okay. Got it on there, and that's going to fit down right over that. Fit right over that stud there. Okay. So there's your main gear. If you're going to test it, just hold your finger right here. Otherwise, it's going to kick that out, and you're going to have to take it off and do it again. Okay, so that kicks that back, which is perfect, and now it's perfect. And you go backwards and it catches. Okay, so we're good there. That's perfect. Okay, main gear. Get some cow's grease here. Okay, here's your main gear. You can see here, this is a thin little space. So this is where this thin drag washer goes. I'm just going to put a little bit of this cow's drag grease on here, and I'm going to set that in there. Okay. And then for the top side, same thing, the fatter drag washer. So we'll get those in there and get that greased up a little bit. It doesn't take tons. It doesn't have to have tons and tons on there. Set that on top right there. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to put some grease on those teeth. Like I said, not a whole lot, because the teeth kind of ride, you know, they mesh with each other. So if you end up with way too much grease, you're just going to end up with a whole bunch of grease inside your reel. That will be plenty. And as you recall, the small drag washer goes down and the bigger one goes up. Okay, that'll mesh right here with that. So there you have it. And then this is the little pressure plate that rode on top of it. Okay. that done. Okay. Now for this side plate, we're going to go ahead and put that on here. Let's see which side we have to put this on. I believe we're right here. Alright, so we can get those screws right here. Easier when you get a couple of them started. There we go. And I'm holding that drag plate, or I'm sorry, the side plate down so it's kind of flush all the way around. Then we'll get on to this one. I'm not tightening them all the way down, just get them started. And then this last one here. And when I get them all down, I'll just kind of snug them up a little bit. They don't have to be super tight, so do not over tighten them. All right, so we got that done. Now on this side here, let's take the side plate here and we're going to put it on here. You can tell where it goes because right there, there's that little slot for the handle. So we just kind of make sure that's on there. Let it snap in. Alright, now we're going to put these couple of screws in that hold the side plate in. Let's see if I can. Alright, almost. Alright, so now we've got that going. This is the spool tensioner cap. Nothing special about that. There is a little shim that goes in there. And then there is that little piece that goes right there. Actually, I'm going to put that in the cap. I think that'll make it easier. Make sure that slides on there so that looks like it's going on good. All right. So we should be pretty much good to go. Let's see. Here's a spool. This plastic piece is going to mesh with those plastic gears in there. All right, so we're good there. Looks like everything's good. Oh, well, throw it away here. Alright, let's see. Put that on there. What I do want to do real quick, actually, I'm going to put a drop of oil right there on the very end where it rides down in that little notch. All right. Now we need to, again, see if we can get this part back on here. Give me just a second here, and I will get this all fixed, and then we'll be right back. All right, quick learning lesson there. These fingers here, they have to ride inside of there, so they need to be pushed in when you're putting this back together, okay? So let's put this side on first. Make sure we got that correct. We do. And now we'll work on getting that in there where we need it. There we go. All right, so we got it. I'm going to evenly tighten our thumb screws. Alright. Now we'll put this cap back on here. Again, you have the copper shim, and then you have a little plastic piece there. And just set that on there. Good room. All right. Now for what I thought was going to be the fun part of the reel is our little drag system here. I am going to put a little bit of grease on the inside of here. And on the outside, not a whole lot. Alright, so that's our next thing that goes on. Alright, that's right there. Good. Next thing we have to put on is our this is our Syncro Drag. Nope, sorry about that, folks. So we're going to get that done. Alright, got the hard part done, I think. Next thing we have are these 3 tension washers. They need to oppose each other. So if one is cupped up, the next one needs to be cupped down. And then the next one needs to be cupped up again. For those of you who have watched my videos before, you know I have a couple of boxers and apparently one of them wants out, so give me just a second. Alright, appreciate your patience. Okay, next thing that goes on here is going to be our drag star. You'll see there's a little knurled piece right there. That goes towards the handle of the reel. Alright. Put that on there. Which can activate your drag. We're going to get that down here pretty tight because we're going to put this C-clip on right here. Pretty good deal. All right, so we got that on. Reel is functioning. It's got drag, and then if you do this, it backs off the drag. So it's working the way it should. All right. So there it is. Everything's working. If I don't throw the reel out of my hand. All right. Let's put, got one more thing here. And this is the Syncro cap. That goes on here. All right, let's see if we can get that down. A little more. Very, very nice. Feels really, really good compared to what it felt like earlier. All right. Alright, so we will just tighten this down with the screwdriver. Alright. And then we'll pop this cap down on there. And there you go. There is our made in Sweden Abu Garcia 5500C. Thank y'all for watching, and hope this is helpful. And we will be doing a video tomorrow on a Abu Garcia Revo Max. So tune in for that one as well. Thank y'all for watching.